That's Pink right here on Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great, fantabulous day. Thought transmissions. Do they hear me? Do they? I'll tell you, there's a lot of things about this that we kind of got to hit right up the front. Someone actually hit me up with this question extremely recently, and it's a great question, and certainly probably my favorite topic so far to talk about with all the stuff I do. I think thought transmissions are absolutely amazing. The concept of them, I tap dance around some of the things that I think really can be expanded with this whole concept, but we keep it kind of down on the in a specific person level, maybe even affecting a boss. There's certain people that are close to you that you may want to try this with. Certainly parents are good. Best friends kind of works with a lot of angles, and a lot of us kind of get very tunnel visioned into where's my specific person, where's my SP, rah, right? But we're kind of forgetting there's a lot going on in our worlds, and some of these techniques can be used for a great number of things. So thought transmissions, super awesome. So to cover the basics for anybody that's maybe this is fresh, they're like, what? Thought transmissions? Dan, what are you talking about? Well, let me tell you. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Whenever you think or do think of someone at all, you create what I like to call thought bridge. You instantly shoot out like fiber optic network cables, right? Like a satellite dish suddenly goes and points right at them, okay? And you create a connection. So what happens is anything that you are feeling while you're thinking about that individual is broadcast or transmitted to them. It's that simple. There is no special posture you've got to be in, no special meditation practice that you need to do. Literally, whenever you think of anybody, you create a bridge with them. And whatever you're feeling and thinking, certainly, will be transmitted to them. Now, why do I say thinking and feeling? Let me kind of explain that real quick, and then we'll get into the guts of how we know they hear us, right? The reason that I say feeling for sure is because most people, when they receive your thought transmission, now they are not necessarily consciously going to know. I get this question all the time. Do they hear me? How do I know they hear me? That's a lot trickier without asking them, which I've done in the past, by the way. I had people that I was very close to, and as I was developing through my spiritual cycles and circles, I could literally reach out to them and say, hey, were you kind of just sort of thinking? And they're like, yeah. So there was times, and it wasn't 100%, mind you, but I learned. You start to learn. You start to get to a place where you're like, yeah, no, I've felt this before, so I understand this. But that being said, you kind of got to learn a lot of these things. It's things that you get used to, you get practice, and it does start to make sense, and you'll start to get proof, if you will, from outside areas, from other places. You'll start to notice things. You'll start to get signs. You'll start to have people say things. You'll start to notice. So the reason I say your feelings are what they will feel typically is when you are doing a thought transmission, most people will feel you. That is the, I want to say, lower level of sensitivity. So for someone that's super sensitive, it gets different. But for someone that's moderately sensitive, they're going to feel you. They're going to feel how you feel. So, as I've said frequently, if you keep thinking of your SP and then you get frustrated, grumpy, or angry, that's the feeling you're sending to them. So how that translates to them typically is they're going to be, oh, so-and-so. Oh, she's like mad, like, oh, or, why are you so grumpy? Like, I got tired of fighting with you. Like, they instantly start to go through these, like, feelings of what it was like when we were frustrated together, you and this person, right? They feel you. Now, as they get more and more sensitive, they might actually start to pick up on your thoughts. They might actually, so if you're sitting there thinking about a certain restaurant, maybe, for example, a restaurant that was really special to you, they might actually pick up on that. And especially if it's accompanied with good feelings, that'll help too, because, that wonderful moment that you both shared, maybe it was your first kiss, right? That magical night when you guys first kissed and you had that wonderful meal, and then you went out by the beach, and I'm actually describing my first kiss with someone. But we went out, and you're overlooking the beautiful view, and then, bam, planted on them, right? It was a very special moment. So when you think of that moment, you might see the place in your mind, but then also feel all those emotions that were going with it. So those transmissions, again, if they're a little more on the sensitive side, they're going to probably pick up on some of the thoughts. Now, the other side of this mechanism, and I did a show recently on fallacies, 5 fallacies of God and life. It's actually a good show. I think about 4 people watched it. But the one thing that's really important to understand as far as fallacies go, we are all connected. So the fallacy is that we're disconnected, that we're not connected to each other. That is a fallacy. We are all connected 100% of the time without trying to do anything. Our souls prefer it this way. They like it this way. Our higher selves are constantly working with other higher selves. So thought transmissions are just a very natural mechanism that occurs. Now, as we get more and more sensitive, we'll pick up on more and more of the thought transmissions that are happening to us. When we pop into other people's minds, we'll start to become more sensitive of them. They'll pop into our heads and we'll feel a certain way and be like, why did they just pop into my head? And then you'll be like, oh, maybe they're thinking of me. Or then suddenly you get a text message from them. And you're like, haha, yeah, there they are. That's exactly what was happening there. I was picking up on them. That will be your proof. Seriously, that will be your proof. Can it be pushed off as something else, as coincidence, as happenstance, as whatever? Yeah, absolutely. You will never get for sure solid proof. You will never get proof that you can share with another individual and prove to them. Never. You will never, ever, ever get proof that you can share with another person and prove to them that this is what's happening. So don't try. Stop trying. You're going to make yourself look like a crazy person if you keep trying to prove to other people that all this stuff you're talking about is true. But you will experience it, and your experience will become your proof. You will never be able to prove to another, but you will prove to yourself. So the more and more you think of people, the more and more you start having these reactions, the more and more you start noticing how connected you are to other people because suddenly you're thinking of them before the text message, before they walk in the room, whatever the case is. So how do you know that you're connecting to them? Now, we've talked about auto-writing. This was kind of specific to the question. Not totally thought transmissions, but still kind of in that realm of communicating with them. And we are able to communicate with anyone we want. Now, again, how sensitive are they? They might not. How busy? They might not feel it. They might not notice it. How busy are they at the moment? Are they just totally engulfed in work? Are they in the middle of a football game, right? Like they're so focused on what they're doing right now, they're not going to notice you. Not gonna, because they're focused on something else. That's okay. That's how it should be. When you're meditating, right? All these thoughts and feelings just kind of drift through. So if they're meditating at the moment and doing it properly, they might feel you, but they're going to let it pass because that's the point of meditating. Of course you feel things. Of course you think things, but you don't hold on to them. You let them go. You let them pass. So again, the proof aspect of it can be a little tricky. Can be. Not going to be able to necessarily prove it, but what you will start to notice when you're hearing the feelings back, when they pop into your head and you think of them, you'll start to notice word usage. You'll start to notice familiar feelings. You'll start to notice places that you've been together. You'll start to see situations that maybe you've not experienced yet because maybe they're thinking of them. You'll start to see things that maybe even just your higher self is trying to guide you towards because you thinking of that puts energy towards it, helps create it, and gets that ball rolling. The thought transmissions are always happening. Always. No matter what's going on, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, thought transmissions are always occurring. Every time you think of somebody, you're creating a bridge. Everything you think and feel, primarily feel, is being pushed to them, transmitted, broadcasted like a giant satellite dish, like astronauts floating in space, and we're broadcasting a radio message to them. It is the same thing. And that broadcast goes everywhere, mind you. But the antenna on the, shuttle or the spacecraft, whatever it is able to find that signal and decode it. It's capable of recognizing it. It knows. It creates that response back that you will sometimes get. These are the ways that you will start to realize that you are connecting. The most important thing, once you kind of get past whether this is happening or not, is the very fact that it is happening. Once you get to that place, the power that comes with it. The power that I'm now sending feelings intentionally to another individual. I am now talking intentionally to another's higher self. I'm making plans. I'm getting them on board. I'm maybe having a little conversation because there's something I'm confused about. I've told people before, I've done it with my phone. I'll do a Dictadroid thing. I'll auto talk. Again, it's connecting to their higher self. It's connecting to them via a thought transmission. I'm intentionally connecting to them. Literally thinking is all you got to do, but then I'll even take it one step further and say, all right, I'm connecting to so-and-so's higher self. That's it. That's all I say. I'm connecting to so-and-so's higher self, my SP's higher self, whatever. And then I ask a question, and I do it on my phone. I just ask, and I'm recording this the whole time. So I'm like, why does it seem like you don't ever text me back when I text you? And then I just start talking. And maybe at first it'll be a little kind of goofy, but then as I get in and I just start talking and just keep talking, the stuff that comes out when I go back and listen to it is, it's a trip. So do I know if that's coming from me? Is that coming from them? Is that coming from higher self? Is it coming from source? Where is it coming from? Almost doesn't matter. And that's really, I think, part of the thing. If it's coming from your imagination, let's just run through the scenarios, and you're getting amazing advice, and it's some of the best advice that you will ever hear, who cares? It's great advice. Follow it. Maybe it's coming from yourself. Great. Through this mechanism, you are able to give yourself amazing advice. Fantastic. How will you typically know it's coming from a higher self? It's typically going to be laced with love. It's going to be positive. If you're getting negative stuff in there, you're not connecting to their higher self. Trust me. If you're getting negative things at all, it's most likely you filling it in. If it's coming from a place of love, if it's coming from a place of openness, if it's coming from a place of understanding, even if you've got fights and anger between you two, the message you receive back should still be of that loving nature. Yes, I know we've been having some difficulties and challenges in our communications lately, but there is no question that I absolutely love you and adore you, and I would love to see how we can get ourselves back on track. Those would be the types of messages. Yes, they'll acknowledge that there's maybe a struggle between the two of you, of course, because that's true. But is it because you're bad? Is it because they're wrong? Is it because No. We're all making mistakes and growing through life. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. Making mistakes is part of growing. So many people try to live life without making mistakes. And frankly, don't live at all, don't learn anything, and are basically afraid to do anything. Paralysis. Fear to do. No one person that keeps bringing up all these opportunities to talk to someone, excuse me, all these opportunities to talk to an individual that keeps popping up in their life, and this person keeps mimicking them, and they don't say anything, and she never says anything to him, but she keeps expecting him to talk to her. You can manifest that way. I'm very pro-action. When someone pops up in my life, I take it like, oh, here they are. I don't go, okay, well, I was trying to manifest where they'd walk up and say, Butterfinger, and if they don't say Butterfinger, it's not the manifestation I'm doing. All right, well, you're totally limiting yourself. You're removing every other possibility that could exist, and you're telling the universe it has to happen this way, or I'm not going to go down that path. Now, again, getting slightly off track, but a lot of these thought transmissions and feelings can be communicated via this avenue, this path. And yes, they can show up in dreams too. A lot of these thought transmissions can be pushed out. They're instant. So if you're feeling it right now, that's one thing. If you know they were doing something an hour ago, and then right now you're thinking about it, that's you. It's not them. It is instant. There is no delay. There is no, well, they did it, but they live like 1,000 miles away, so I'm sure it took it a while to get to me. No, it's instant. Instant. Space and time don't seem to matter when it comes to this type of stuff, which, not to get totally off topic, but does kind of speak to space and time and our understanding of it. Apparently, distance is not necessarily what we see it as or perceive it as. Distance may be far less of a thing than we realize. When you get into higher dimensions, there's not really distance. That's more of a 3D thing. Once you get to 4D, well, distance can be changed. And I know a lot of people might suggest, I don't want to get off, but 4D is not necessarily just time. There's actual spatial dimensions as well. So I'd love to do another show on that. Don't get me started about all this crazy stuff. Important takeaways. We are all connected. Always, always, always. When you think of them, you're creating that thought bridge. Any feelings and thoughts you have at that point are being sent instantly. Instantly. How do I know? There definitely are. Just know. Just know. And you'll get your proof as far as does this stuff work via other avenues. And again, you will never be able to prove to another person. Never, ever, never, ever, never, never, ever, never. Never say never, 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 ever will you be able to prove it to another. I say that maybe down the road we might have cool technology, but currently we don't. And so there's no way to do it. People will look at you like you're crazy. They will tell you you're crazy. And really, if you want to just create more questions and struggles and growth and development, yeah, talk about crazy stuff with people that aren't ready to hear crazy stuff, and you will frequently get people questioning your sanity. And that's a good way to really solidify your beliefs, frankly, because you might go backwards and then it's like it's eating you up, and then a week later, here you are revisiting. Here you are going, no, but I really believe this. Thought transmissions, play with them, have fun with them, understand the power of them. Don't be afraid to try to transmit thoughts maybe to people that have already gone to the other side. That's where I was talking about. Some of us aren't necessarily expanding this to places it can. I've certainly done that. That was actually one of my big moments just after graduating high school that really changed my life, was experiencing my grandfather. So thought transmissions work in really, really awesome ways, and wherever their energy is, they instantly receive your feelings and thoughts and vibrations. It is an awesome, wonderful thing. We are all completely connected forever, and we love each other forever. We are all family. We are very close. And so there is no anger, there is no hatred. Even if you're fighting and struggling in our 3D physical world right now, your souls aren't having that problem. Trust me, your souls are like, yeah, we'll work through this, no worries. There's no anger. They get it. It's from a higher perspective. It's like a parent looking at a child. You don't judge the child for being a child. The child's just being a child. It's maybe throwing a tantrum, whatever the case is, maybe cute, maybe frustrating, whatever the case is. You don't get mad at the child for being a child. Just like our higher selves don't get mad at our lower selves for being lower selves. It's by design. It's supposed to be this way. And in light of all the confusion that we live in, we still manage to come to conclusions. We still manage to come to understanding that's deep and spiritual in its nature. That is where the power truly arises for us. It's figuring it out through the fog, figuring it out, knowing that. So this whole thing, thought transmissions play a big part in that. Hopefully this helps you guys in the big picture, kind of understanding whether they get it, whether they don't. They will. Trust me. They may not consciously know it. They might. I don't know. That depends. Their higher self for sure gets it. That communication is for sure between them and you. And it is profound when it comes to that kind of that understanding from our point. When we understand that we can connect with others like that, life-changing. Life-changing forever and ever. Amen. All right, going out with a great song by Cyndi Lauper. It's called Time After Time right here on Dan Radio Style.